Hey everybody, happy Monday. Happy, warm, lovely day. If you're listening to us today on the holiday, thanks so very much for tuning in. If you're not listening yet to us on the holiday, because this is an encore, thank you again for listening today. Meanwhile, we do hope that you've had a really wonderful week. I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm your host for Act 3 and super glad and delighted to be with Island Crisis Care Society today with Elspeth Erickson and Stephen Cochran. Great to have you both on the show. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for being here as our guest. How are you guys today?
We're fantastic, Kathy. Thanks for having us on the show as well and for chatting with us. We're very excited to share with you and your listeners all about the programs that we want to, that are just starting off with Island Crisis Care Society.
Well, you guys have done some pretty outstanding work in our community for a very long period of time. But I also know that a lot of people aren't entirely sure exactly what ICCS does. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit more about what you guys do overall?
Sure. No, we're happy to. So Island Crisis Care Society is a society, a nonprofit society based here in Nanaimo, also with programs in Oceanside and Parksville. And Island Crisis Care Society started about 30 years ago, just over 30 years ago, in fact, in response to some of the needs that were very present at the time and visible at the time that have only grown in our community since then. Way back in 1989, a couple of fellows saw some folk who were living rough on the street, who were suffering from a lot of concurrent problems, and they just were devastated and wanted to do something, and so they did. They rolled up their sleeves and they pitched in and they found this old, rather derelict house and fixed it up a little bit, and that was really how the society was born. Just trying to provide immediate care and support to those folks in a very real way. And since then, of course, as the need has grown, our programs have grown as well, and the society has grown. So now, from that very initial beginning, based on a lot of care and a lot of heart, hopefully still with a lot of care and a lot of heart, but our programs have grown to 12 programs across 7 different sites in Nanaimo and in Parksville, trying to meet the needs of people who have experienced homelessness and often with concurrent other difficulties, often with challenges of substance use, mental health challenges, and a lot of other challenges and trauma in their past that bring them to a place where they need support. Our programs are designed to try to meet them at different places along that spectrum and really help them to move forward towards independence and recovery.
You know, I'm so delighted to hear that you have expanded and grown to the degree that you have, because what I know for sure is all over Vancouver Island, the need is just exponentially increasing every single day. We're seeing a lot more homelessness. We're seeing a lot more tragedy. How are you able to, on the ground, support older, or not older adults, but all adults, because I assume some of them are older adults as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, how are you able to actually do that on the ground? What kind of programs do you offer?
Sure. Well, I'm going to start my answer just by saying that it's not just us, of course. Island Crisis Care Society has programs, but there are lots of different institutions in our community that are trying very hard to work together to meet those immediate needs. And it's a really collaborative effort to try to address most appropriately the needs of the individuals that come into contact with our programs. With Island Crisis Care Society, we've really developed programming in an organic way in some senses, trying to respond to needs as they have arisen, as we've seen them, and of course as they've grown. As you mentioned, the number of people who are affected by homelessness or precarious housing, which is just as devastating for folk, has increased. And you know, we've seen people of all ages that have come into contact with our programs. Sometimes it's from loss of a job. Sometimes it's from not being able, with support payments of various kinds, to meet rent. Sometimes it's through impacts of devastating adversity on people's lives that are caused by or concurrently cause issues and challenges in their mental health or cause anxiety that prompt them to or result in them losing the stability of housing. And sadly, there are a lot of older people who come into contact with our programs. In fact, a lot of older women
Yes.
who have lost that support structure and end up in economic duress and really need some support. So our programs are really designed to try to meet those different needs in different places. Some of our programs are drop-in and short-term. Bridge to housing is the new term for emergency shelter, and we've got a lovely bridge to housing unit that has just opened in the newly opened Samaritan Place, which has 14 beds for women, and programming straight through to stabilization after a crisis, through to supportive housing that can be longer term, right through to transitional housing when people are a little bit more on their feet and want to move more towards independence, but still need that extra support to make sure that they can maintain their housing. And we've branched out into different kinds of programming as we've seen those needs grow.
Indeed, and I can see how, you know, that that wraparound service becomes very critical at this
Absolutely.
time. I think for what I've noticed in our city is that the rents have just gone skyrocketing, and people are coming over from the mainland. There are people from, you know, the interior, from the north, through COVID, through all kinds of crises, whether it's heat domes, you know, floods, water spout, like whatever it is, there's something going on and it's shifting. We're seeing so many more people that are homeless. How are you getting your funding to be able to help support these people in such a difficult challenge? Do you do fundraisers or things like that, or how are you getting it?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And we are fortunate to have a broad spectrum of funding. So some of our larger programs, the supportive housing units, the new Samaritan Place, for example, are funded in collaboration through BC Housing, and we're tremendously grateful for that.
Yeah.
A couple of other programs that we are fortunate to manage are funded through Island Health. But it's for the innovative programming, the programming that meets additional needs. That we continue also to seek funding through other donors, through grants, through United Way or the Nanaimo Foundation or other grantors, and also individual donors. And those donations help Island Crisis Care to support our program participants in ways that really can meet their needs beyond basic shelter and food, and allow us to develop what we hope are mechanisms to help them really move forward with a little bit more hope and a little bit more support to move onwards in their own personal trajectory towards wellness.
You know, for many, many years, I have said that, and friends of mine have said, and I've stolen it from lots of people, you know, many, many people are one paycheck away from being on the street.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when we think about that, is there a way that people can get more active to be more supportive in community? What would that look like for you?
Well, for Island Crisis Care Society, you know, we do, and I emphasized at the beginning, and I think as we talk, I'll continue to emphasize the importance of community. Yes. There is so much that organizations such as our own try to do, but there's so much that needs to be supported by community. And there's very practical ways. Of course, one way is through sending donations. We're very faithful to our donors, and donations do go towards that innovative program that can really jumpstart people's lives and make a difference. We also have folk come and volunteer, and that's fantastic. We have a volunteer program that can be found linked to on our website with lots of information. And so people can come and dedicate a little bit of time, both in training programs or just in coming alongside folk and being a listening ear and providing perhaps sharing of skills that they may have. But there's a bigger way, I think, that all of us in community can help as well. You know, I think there's a very real marginalization that a lot of the clients in our programs have faced. There is sadly a stigma in our society against people who have had difficulty. And whether consciously or unconsciously, that's often conveyed to our clients. And that's one of the challenges that they face, is that even as they're moving towards recovery and well-being and hope for something a little bit more than what they've come out of, often that marginalization and that fear of rejection holds them back. And so one of the biggest things that we hope for across our community, and that we encourage all of us to really think about and try to change is changing that stigma. Not being fearful when you see someone sleeping rough on the street, remembering that they too are human beings and that they deserve to be treated as human beings, but also really benefit from a smile or a hello or a how are you or can I help you?
Yeah.
And those things can make the whole difference between stopping in that spot in fear for some of the folk who live rough and the hope that maybe there is a better tomorrow.
You know, I'm so delighted that you said that. And I'm more than delighted. I'm moved by it. I think that it's very important that people stop looking at people as though they're invisible, because they're not. And it's very, very easy for people to make judgments when there is something that they don't understand. A lot of people have a belief system that's wrapped around it being an addiction-based reason why people are sleeping under the bridge. They have not necessarily the idea that maybe this person is fleeing danger or violence.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's nothing to do with alcohol, drugs, or it could be, again, that last paycheck. And perhaps over a short period of time, they found themselves unable to cope. And it's just so easy to make these people villains when in actual fact, they're exactly the same as all
They're
of
just
us
people.
are, right?
Absolutely.
They're just people. I'll never forget a time. I was actually talking with Stephen just before this program started about sailing. And what I was taught when I was learning how to sail is I had the great privilege of sailing from Key West to the Dry Tortugas. And in Key West, the sailor who I bought my boat from, the sailor, you know, when he got to Key West, the first thing he did is go to the street. And he wanted to talk to all of the people that were living on the street, because it was them who could tell him, who could tell us who and what was dangerous, where things were, locations. And I never forgot that. That actually was probably a very pivotal change in my attitude towards what I didn't understand. And the gratitude that I still have for this man will last with me for the rest of my life, because I no longer look at people as though they're invisible. And I invite people to do the same. We talked a little bit about some innovative programming that you have developed and you're developing constantly, which, you know, is just brilliant. I'm so delighted. I wonder if you can talk to us a little bit about Project Rise and what is all of that about?
Absolutely. So, you know, one of the things that we've noticed as we've worked with clients through the years is that there are those gaps often towards great leaps, in fact, between getting settled and finding stability with housing and then taking that step towards independence. And so through thought and analysis and asking a lot of questions, we realized that one of those things is really filling the space of some of the skills that they may have missed, building confidence and then gaining experience in order to feel confident and have the capacity to move forward into the working world. So that's really what Project Rise started with, the hope to give those clients or participants who are ready to move forward the chance to do so in a very real way, and really be provided with the skills in order to do so. Can you talk a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my bread and butter, as they say. I mean, I'm actively looking at our participants are kind of in the next room, and they're going through first aid today as one of their first certifications. But as Elspeth alluded to, is that oftentimes there's a lack of hope with that group that comes to us for the very first time, and they call it school, and they want to come here, and it's that next step that says, oh, I'm precariously just taking off the training wheels of I've lived rough, I've now got it supported living, and now what do I want to do next as my next step? And they go, I'm going to try that, and I'm going to give it an attempt. So we go into a kind of a 4-week learning thing. Then we're individually developing each person's plan to fit their need or where they want to go in their next steps. We bring in a whole bunch of community support with potential work hosts and where they want to be to support these clients and participants we support. And then they employ them for a couple of months and pay them just a regular wage as everybody else should earn. And then we hope that they stay, because they found that with the labor market right now, with shortages, our programs are very appealing, because the work host gets a subsidized employee for that period of time in recognition for them taking a little bit of a chance on somebody that might not be quite ready a little bit, you know, or a little green. But I mean, we want them to have that positive experience for sure.
Yes, Stephen, I think that it must be a little bit unnerving for someone to try something new again at the best of times. But I'll bet you see a lot of deep change when they get that first day of work, that first opportunity that maybe they haven't had in some period of time. Has there been some, you know, aha moments in your work with these people that have really, you know, opened your eyes to something you never thought you would ever see?
Well, I can tell you, it's a hard thing for me to talk about without getting emotional.
That's okay. It's an emotional show. I don't mind at all.
But at the end of the day, we were fortunate to have Sky Ryan here for Czech News, and she interviewed one of the participants. And what they had done was they linked the 2-year-ago interview that Sky had done with this participant and showed how hard they were living at that point in time. And this participant was able to see themselves. I showed the video to them this morning.
Oh,
and
wow.
The difference of the person that you saw on the screen 2 years ago to today wasn't the same person. And she looked at herself and she said, wow, I was really living rough then, with no hope, with no optimism for the future or what I was going to do the next day, the next hour, the next week. But her face on that video screen when she saw herself, like, I get to go to school and it's exciting, and I'm actually have hope for the first time, and knowing that I'm part of something that is just not me, like it's my classmates together, we're supporting one another, we have the community behind us wanting us to do well and succeed, and they go, I actually can do this. Like I actually believe it, because like Elspeth came in the other day and we were cooking in the kitchen and everybody was there like a big family. And I just stood back as a kind of a proud father would. And to know that they were all engaging with one another, we were cooking and just having great time together, but that it was all on the basis of how the program supports them, right?
Yeah. People need a little support, you know, and we all need a little support sometimes. We don't always know what it looks like, but we all need a little bit of support every now and then. You know, I'm worried about the community at this stage of our incarnation, seeing so many people suffering and so many people in tragedy, and seeing so many people that are feeling hopeless or lost or all of it, and just haven't got the wherewithal to get themselves out because they don't know where to begin. When someone comes to you, what do you want them to know? What do you want them to immediately recognize the minute they walk in through your door or make that call? Or what is it that they want you to know?
You know, I think I'm going to jump in on this one, and I'm sure Stephen has something to add too. But I mean, I think in whatever program we're talking about, when someone walks in our door, we want them to know that they're important.
Yes.
That they're a human being, and that they're cared about, you know, in large ways and small. And I think that's the essence of really what runs through all of our programs, and that I hope runs through the experience of the participants in all of our programs as they move forward. And I hope that we feel that a little bit as a community as well. I just wanted to, you know, you mentioned the concern as our community has gone through so many struggles in the last few years, and so many people are devastated. But I think without being too much of a cockeyed optimist, there's also a wonderful sense that we've felt just growing a little bit, that there's also a growing awareness about other people and a growing care. And that, you know, not consistently, but I think pretty obviously, our community is becoming a more caring place as well. There's definitely an awareness that everyone is really on the cusp of disaster sometimes, with so much that can happen that's unexpected. And so I think that's lent a willingness to be a little bit more aware about those most vulnerable in our community. And we have been incredibly heartened as we've seen that through lots of different ways, through, of course, things like people supporting our programs, but also through dialogue in the community and really hope that's conveyed even in commentary, on social media about positive change and positive support for others in our community, as a growing sense of volunteerism and a growing sense of identity as a community beyond our own little silos. And so that's what we hope as well on a more corporate level in our community, that we can really build that together.
And I think that, the attitude that you bring to the table is that is actually very true for many. And I'm really delighted actually to note that it is true that there has been a lot of struggle for sure. And I don't mean to be a negative Nelly, because if anybody knows me, they know that, I'm wearing rose-colored glasses 97% of the time, and they're so badly bent at this point, and I don't care, I'm putting them back on, right? I don't want to look at the negative, because like you, I see that our community, although it's struggled, we're seeing a different incarnation of the way we communicate with each other and the patience that people are starting to have, especially in light of COVID, right? Let's face it, COVID has put everybody on the same level.
Exactly.
Everybody had their privileges, for lack of better words, taken away to some extent, some worse than others. And so I think that people started to show a little bit more compassion over the last couple of years. A little bit more empathy is starting to come through, and innovation as well on how they can see themselves helping in ways that I don't know that they've had an opportunity to do had it not been this crisis that we're experiencing now.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. There's definitely that sense of community. And honestly, that brings us all hope.
It does. Everybody. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So in regards to the programs and services that you have, are all of your programs, or are your programs subsidized? Are they free? How do people access the opportunity to utilize the programs?
That's a very good question. And a lot of our programs, again, I mentioned at the beginning that we work in collaboration with lots of different organizations. So a lot of our programs are through referrals, but very, very open referrals. So folk can access actively the mechanisms to get into our programs and other programs. The exception to that, of course, is our Bridge to Housing beds for women in Samaritan Place that I mentioned earlier on. And those are emergency shelter beds, and ladies can just show up at the door. And if there's a space, they will be accommodated. But because the spaces in town are so limited, there's an effort among all agencies involved in the homelessness sector and the precarious housing sector to try to collaborate and work together to try to house as many people as possible. Now, Project Rise, which is the topic of the hour for sure, and the program that we're so excited about, that's currently in its very first cohort. It's just started, and it actually started only a week and a half ago. We're just in the second week.
Really new.
Very new.
I didn't realize it was only a week and a half old.
Yeah, but he's still got all these stories already. It's amazing.
I know, that's what shocks me. I'm like, really?
It's a wonderful, intense program, and the 4-week training period is very intense. So it really is a joy a minute, honestly, to be watching the group and see how they grow and develop. And then there'll be an 8-week work placement, as Stephen said, and then we're going to start a whole new cohort again in 3 months. So there'll be a new group starting in July. So that program currently, we opened invitations just to folk who are already in supportive housing with Island Crisis Care Society, not to limit it, but just to start with a group that we know has that additional support in the place that they're living as well, to try to make sure that they have great success. But our vision for the future is definitely, as time rolls on, we're hoping to have 4 cohorts a year. So it's really going to be a program that rolls on for a while and can capture lots of people. So we hope that we can open it more broadly beyond ICCS programs in the future.
Stephen, I'm going to actually go to you for a second, since you're the project coordinator for this. I'm curious how you put this program together. I mean, I did hear, of course, there was a bit of first aid that's being done. There's people that are joining, that are watching themselves change already by the moment. When you put the plan together, when your team put the plan together, what did you have in mind for life skills to help to be able to support the people in the cohort?
Well, I have a recreational leadership background in my training, run many facilities with special needs, children and adults, YMCA camps all across Canada. So I bring that wealth of a multitude of people that mentored me and showed me the way. When I come back here, though, when I look at it, it's always client-centered.
Yes.
It's always capacity building driven. So that, in fact, they really teach me. So over the years that I've literally been interacting with a multitude of people and a lot of community-based programming, I always go back to, you just even said to it, you went back to the streets.
Yes.
To learn where the dangerous areas were, where they're telling me everything that, hey, that curriculum thing or whatever we learned in school the other day, they said that really isn't, that's not helpful. And so I go, oh, okay, well, we'll delete that one, but what would you have liked to have in place of that? And then I go out and I find that person or that workshop facilitator or whoever's doing it in town currently, and then I go, okay, let's inject you now into that new program. And then you build that because we have evaluation ongoingly, not only from myself, but from the facilitators, the work hosts, the participants, most importantly, the participants, because that allows us to, change and cater it to ultimately what it is they want.
Yeah, being able to pivot like that in that growth process is so very, very important. For yourself, when you started this program, was it already within the first week? Has it met or gone beyond your expectations? And if so, what way?
Whoa. It's like a proud parent again, right? We spent 3 months. We did a little bit of a pilot program up in Parksville for just September to December, just to see, kind of get a feel for it, put the toe in the pond, if you will. But out of that, we took 3 months to really deep dive into what kind of version that we were going to do going forward. And when I look at that, you can put a program together, design a curriculum, hope that it's going to go and they're going to be really engaged and they're going to be, they're going to be wonderful for having to have experienced it. But you never know what that's going to look like. So the first week, I was like, oh, are they going to show up? Are they going to enjoy themselves? But I always go with the philosophy of, if they came, they showed up, they learned something, and they returned the next day, I think I'm in the right ball field. Do you know what I mean? If I'm doing that, and they're telling me that, hey, I love cooking, so I cook for them every day, and they said, oh, you got to show me that recipe and whatever. And if that was the thing that brought them back the next day, great. I love the hook. And then if I got them with the hook, well, by the way, while you're here eating, we're going to learn this other thing that we want to insert that day. And they don't even realize that they've learned. And they went, oh, that was really helpful. I'm going to go home and I'm going to use that. And then they come back tomorrow because they're inquisitive to what they're going to learn tomorrow. And we keep doing that each and every day. And then we go through a month and we go, oh my goodness, now here we are. And we've got a month gone by and we've got to make decisions on who we're going to work with or work at. And then what next stage of my life, because we do goal setting and kind of personal plans, and they're driving their bus. So they have to decide what's their next steps and how I can support that to how it's going to happen.
Nothing happens overnight. These little tiny incremental baby steps. And then, like you mentioned earlier on in the hour, what was exciting was to see this particular participant 2 years after the fact, when she was on film, and then could look back and see how much that she had changed or he had changed during that process. I mean, I think that in itself, when we become witness to our own growth as well as the witnessed by others, I think that takes it a really incredibly large step, a much bigger step than we could have anticipated.
Yeah, and I have there's a sense of purpose in, because one of the participants who also got interviewed the other day, she said, for the very first time, I feel like I have purpose
Yes.
and I have something to wake up to look forward to each day. But ultimately, there's some ownership there.
Yes.
They take ownership for it, and they think, I'm part of something that not everybody else gets to do. And now I'm going to be very protective of that. But they're also the best marketers and promoters of the program, because they're going out there and saying, hey, can I tell you about what I did the other day in Project Rise? I think you would be really good for that. And they want to sign them up for the next one.
I'm with you on that. I completely understand. You know, I know for myself that when people are feeling excited about their lives, even just something wonderful, they want to share. They want everybody to know about it, and they want to. There's a sense of, it's beyond purpose. It's a sense of belonging that I think happens when they have something that they can contribute to the betterment of somebody else's lives. And I think we all want to do that at some level or another. If you have just tuned in, you have tuned in to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. We are beyond delighted that you have come to join us today. In the Zoom booth on the program today, I have Elspeth Erickson and Stephen Cochran from Island Crisis Care Society. We've been talking about Project Rise and all kinds of wonderful things that are going on in our community that you might not know anything about, but you should know everything about. I also want to just take a moment to tell you it's a great time to go grab a piece of paper and a pen, because when we're finished our conversation here, we're going to want you to be able to write down their website, their information. So please make sure you have that. I'm also just going to shout out a couple of more very, very quick announcements here, if you don't mind, just because it's coming up and it's very important. You know, our community depends on all of us working together. And so it's very important that not only do we support community through agency and through our donations, through our time, through volunteering, but it's also to recognize the great things that we all do with each other and for each other. In our community recently, I want to do a shout out to Hospice Society for raising a whole whack of money to be able to support palliative care in our community, and to wish them tremendous congratulations to the winners of those programs. I also want to shout out to the SPCA, who has also recently done a huge fundraiser. They can still, you can still get their tickets, so I invite you to please go find them online, SPCA local, get their 50-50 draw ticket, make sure that you help the animals in our community as well. And coming up September of 2022 is Shine, and we can't wait to share with you Shine 2022, where we hope to assist mental health and addictions in our community and raise a whack of money at the convention center in doing so. So if you want to know more about Shine, please reach out. I'm happy to give you all the information you could ever want. So reach out to us here on Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. Again, I'd like to welcome Elspeth Erickson and Stephen Cochran, Island Crisis Care. We're going to have some more conversation. There's a whole bunch more we've got to say. And again, thank you so much for being here, both of you. So tell me more, because I want to jump through hoops to see how we can work together as a community to support the homeless. And I do know that it's a collaboration. I recognize there are a number of different agencies within our community who have created a group of well-informed, intelligent, and bright co-creators to help homelessness go away eventually in our communities. We all want to have the basics in life. We all want to feel safe and secure. We all need to have proper food, nutrition, all those things. They're not pie in the sky dreams. They're things that we all have the right to have. And you guys every single day try to help facilitate that. And so we are blessed to have you in our community indeed. Tell us, I know I recently saw something going on about something yummy that, quite frankly, my bottom does not require, but my heart always does. There's a new bakery in town, and I think we need to know about it. So please share with us what's happening with the bakery.
Well, we would be delighted to share. And yes, we're Stephen and I are in the office that's right above the bakery. So we agree with your constraints, but
we're bringing the treadmill next week.
Oh my goodness, that must be, I mean, in all fairness, I think it's wonderful, but it must be really hard to smell that beautiful pastry kind of coming up through the rafters. I would, oh my goodness, I would not want to work in front of a bakery or
Well,
above
we
it.
fortunately got a locked door between us and them, but let's explain for your listeners who may not know what we're talking about. So we were really excited that yesterday, just yesterday, day before we're taping, so that was Wednesday, April 13th,
Yes.
the Nanaimo Bakery and Cafe just reopened its doors. It's been a long-standing icon in the community, really. Again, a bakery and cafe that's been well loved and has been around for a number of years. And through a very fortuitous set of circumstances, Island Crisis Care Society, through its social purpose subsidiary, Rising Hope Services, Inc., was able to purchase the bakery and cafe in the building last year. And it's been an incredibly exciting journey. One that took a great leap of faith, I think, from all of us, but one that we're really excited to be a part of. So the bakery, the Nanaimo Bakery and Cafe, is owned by this social purpose company, Rising Hope Services Inc. And what a social purpose company is it's a company that runs as a business, but its intent is really to make social change in a positive way. And so through the bakery team and the Rising Hope team are really hoping to support our community in a big way, in about 3 ways, really. The first is that as a social purpose company, as they grow and expand, they are able to turn profits back into donations to programs, innovative programs like Project Rise, that really meet the needs of people who have real needs and people who can have creative opportunities and solutions come just with that little bit of impetus and sustainability. Social purpose companies have been proven in the nonprofit sector to be one of the greatest sources of sustainability, bringing business principles and nonprofit principles together. And so we're excited about that new experience. Down the road, the bakery as well will be hosting, we hope, 1 or maybe 2 Project Rise work experience participants per cohort. And that's also exciting, just to think of having folk who had been so dependent on programs and dependent on support, standing up and working independently in such an exciting context. Yes. And then third, of course, I think the bakery has a wonderful intent to become even more than just a place to get good eats. And I can tell you, I'll just pause there and say, you can definitely get good eats there.
Yes.
The new team that has taken over at the bakery, oh my goodness, they have developed incredible recipes. The general manager and head chef, Joshua Nelson, has come up with some incredible new delicacies that I hope listeners will be excited to sample. Cinnamon buns are without question the best cinnamon buns I have ever tasted in my life, with brown butter and toffee topping.
Yum, yum.
I would hazard that the new Nanaimo bar recipe is the best I have ever tasted. And the new lunch menu and breakfast menu, I think, is sure to be a hit. So I think the team are hopeful that lots of people will come, but come for more than just tasting the good food, which is going to be obvious, but really come and linger a little bit. I think the intent really of the Nanaimo Bakery team and of Rising Hope is to create something that's more than just a pass out spot, but really a community hub. Yes. Where people from all parts of our community can come together, can feel comfortable coming in, can have something great to eat, maybe a good cup of coffee, but also
island source coffee.
Island source coffee.
Island sourced coffee.
Salt spring coffee. So it's all very good with the new espresso machine, in case anyone is wondering and likes coffee like I do. But really have that moment to sit and linger and to talk and to think a little bit about issues and to develop a synergy of thinking and talking and caring that will go beyond just a normal bakery. So that's a great aspiration, but it's one that we're excited about.
Now, is the bakery downtown, or where is the bakery located?
The bakery is at 2025 Bowen Road.
Oh, lovely.
It's got a lovely big sign in front. It's at the corner of Bowen and Meredith. Lots of parking and really lots of space to sit down and be comfortable inside. One of the other innovations that they're hoping to develop in the bakery in the next little while is also to put art on the walls from the community, including art produced and created by clients of Island Crisis Care Society programs. So there's lots of looping in. Some of that art, depending on the willingness of the artists, may also be up for sale. So I encourage people who are art lovers to also come and have a little look at that.
I think that's tremendous. I love the idea of bringing art actually into community in that way, because it is very true. You know, a lot of people that are finding themselves on the streets, many of them are incredibly artistic. And so, you know, I've seen tremendous talent, whether it's beadwork or painting or what have you.
Absolutely.
You know, phenomenal wood carvings, like anything and everything that you can imagine. So I do hope that that comes into fruition, because I can sort of see where that would be a highlight for so many people to see.
No, I think so. And I think, you know, you say true. I think a lot of times when people go through adversity in their lives, somehow that pain finds expression in art. And some of the work that we've seen is beautiful. And as Stephen pointed out, there are also handcrafts available through also made by Island Crisis Care Society clients and volunteers that have worked alongside them in really trying to develop those skills. So that little booth is already there in the bakery for anyone.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So now the money that comes into the bakery, that goes to take care of the staff, hopefully some of them coming from Project Rise. Yeah. And you know, are there other expenses that need support from volunteering, or from, like, how is it self-sufficient in that way, or do you require to have more influence from community and donations into the community to support it?
For the bakery, it's running as an independent business, so their intent is to cover all costs, of course, as any business will operationally. But as a social purpose company, there's a hope, of course, as with any business, that they will have some profit. And so the intent is that then those profits will be rolled back into donations to Island Crisis Care Society programs, and specifically programs like Project Rise that wouldn't otherwise be funded in a sustainable way. So we're excited about that. But definitely the bakery and cafe need support from the community as customers. Absolutely. So we hope that lots of people will come and try the new goodies there and enjoy them, and really tell their friends as well.
You've made it so easy. You've talked about the best cinnamon rolls. You've talked about
absolutely
a recipe for Nanaimo bars. You've talked about a breakfast and a lunch menu, which, by the way, I think is terrific that's offered, because people, you know, they may not go out in the evening so much to a bakery, but in the daytime, it's a great spot to grab goodies and, you know, to have a little bit of art and know that you're making it.
Hang out and have brunch.
And we're working right through the weekend as well, Kathy, so that even the Sunday brunch after church crowd can kind of come by and have a spot to come for a little nibble after they've met.
Absolutely.
So, you know.
Well, you know, I'm a woman of faith. I'm talking to my church and I'm getting their babushkas down there. That's going to be a #1 priority on my list, I'll tell you. Listen, I'm really excited about everything we've talked about today. I know that there's so much more that we should talk about and that we will talk about before that time is up. However, it's important that we start to get some information on how people can find you. So we know that the bakery is on Bowen and Meredith on the corner there. But can you give us a bit more information about how people can find you, how they can reach you as the Island Crisis Care Society itself?
Absolutely. So the best way to find information on Island Crisis Care Society is to go to our website. Okay. It's at islandcrisiscaresociety.ca. Really simple. Very simple. And there we try to keep up to date with all sorts of new information on our programs. They are expanding and growing, so we are running to catch up and make sure that's all up to date. And there's also a blog that comes out on that where people can hear some of the latest stories, and sometimes stories on our clients and their histories, which is, I find, the most interesting thing to read, really, to make the programming real. Yes. We also, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and definitely feel free to get in touch with our office. You can contact us in email at development@iccare.ca, and we'll make sure to get back to you if you have any questions.
Okay, so I'm also going to development@iccare.ca, did you say? .ca. Okay. For our YouTube watchers, thank you so much for tuning in on YouTube. We're super glad. Don't forget to like and subscribe and make sure you share, because everybody's going to want to know about Island Crisis Care Society. So just saying, got a little plug there. So all of this information will be down in the bottom of the chat box. So be sure to connect with them directly. I'm not at the life lesson point yet, because everybody who listens to the program knows that that's kind of the end of the show. But the one thing that I've found in my experience in working with nonprofits is nonprofits attract a certain kind of loving, caring, warm, deep people who want to make change in the world and in society. And I'm just curious, you don't have to go too far. I don't want to throw you under the bus or anything like that. But I'm curious, what brought you to this work? Because it really is outstanding work that ICCS is doing. And I'm just curious, what took you to that door yourself?
Wow. Okay, well, I can jump in. I'll make it very brief because it could be long. I just moved to Nanaimo with my family a year and a half ago after working abroad my entire career. I worked for international NGOs, and I worked for UNICEF. For a goodly number of years overseas in sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America. And when my family and I decided to come back to Canada, we started looking around. And I went to that very same website, just by chance, that I just mentioned, islandcrisiscaresociety.ca. And I started reading stories about people. And I was moved to tears. And I just thought, if I want to come back to Canada and do something that will be fulfilling, but also hopefully make an impact, that's where I want to work. So I was very fortunate. I applied, got in, and have been delightedly here ever since. We moved to Nanaimo in 2020. 1 week after we touched ground, I started work with ICCS. So I'm really excited to be a part of it.
That's incredible. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. Our community needs people like you every single day. So thank you for being a part of it. That's amazing. Stephen?
Well, I had a bit of a longer journey.
Tell us about your journey.
Started, as I said, in Ontario with a recreational leadership, a lot of centers, and worked my way all the way across Canada, knowing at some point in time I was going to be on the West Coast because it's just the best place to live. So 30 years fast forward of being involved with development of a lot of grassroots, community-based, nonprofit programming with Parks and Rec and different cities and villages all up and down the island. One of the things, though, in working in the correction system and in working with having 2 children with special needs, I've always been an advocate for the person who is the one whose voice was often never heard, or needs a person to be their voice. And Island Crisis Care does that in spades. What I find is that there's a culture here of people like-minded. We did a personality thing just the other day about how we have such a high interpersonal rating with, that's the thing we have in commonality, and how all of us have that it's more than just a kind heart. It's the whole, it's part of who we are as a being. I've always donated my time with Salvation Army, with Rotary, with all these different community groups, but having to be able to work at a place that shares my personal as well as professional ethics and goals and things that are near and dear to me, that's a rare thing. And so I get to come to work every day at a place that shares my personal and professional all in the same way, and that getting the paycheck's a secondary thing, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And if you're doing what you love, you're never working a day in your life, especially when you're coming back, right? It's all about that community. It's been a delight to talk with both of you today, and I'm so delighted that you came to the program and share your wisdom with everyone here, which leads me actually to 2 things. Number one, let's shout out your information again, and let's get into the life lessons about what this is all about. What would you like our community to know? But before we do that, let's once again shout out your contact information, please.
Sure. So please come and visit our website at islandcrisiscaresociety.ca, and you can learn all about our programs and get in touch with us through that. And we'd be very excited to chat with you through that. As well, in case anyone would like to order online or see the new products at the Nanaimo Bakery,
Yes.
go to nanaimobakery.ca and you will be able to find all of the new developments there. So please don't hesitate. And also come to visit there at the bakery.
Well, you know, you're right. It has been here for a really long time, and to see how it's now shifting and what it's going to do in the community in the future, I am very confident that there'll be lineups at that bakery all day long for days and weeks and weeks and weeks. And let's hope that that be true. In the meantime, as we are ending the program, or very close to it, I'd just like to take a moment to say again, thank you for being here, but also if you have the opportunity to talk to that one person or that many people that are listening to this program, what would you want them to hear about your programming and why they should be a part of whatever it is that they need, or whatever they can aspire to be through coming to you?
I think for me, I'll jump in and let Stephen have the last word. I think for me, the two words that often resonate, and I think I've probably repeated them many times as we've chatted over the last hour, Kathy, are community and hope. Yeah. And just the importance of all of us drawing together as a community to support individuals in hope. You know, the people that we work with in Island Crisis Care Society are the same as all of us across our community. People who may have had difficult moments in their past, people who may have had challenges to overcome that seemed insurmountable, but people, and all of us as people are important and need to feel that we're a part of that community so that all of us can have hope. And so that's really the message that we'd like to convey, and hopefully can support through our programming and through our contacts in our community.
Thank you. Stephen?
And for me, I think it comes down to I made my first and only attempt to run for city council at one point in time. And I had a slogan that it was community with people helping people.
Yes.
And I believe that. And everything that I encourage my participants or anybody in the groups that I'm working with, I always say, always have purpose and intent with everything that you say and do. And if I can encourage them to say that for themselves, I can encourage anybody in the community to do the same and say that, hey, when was the last time you stretched yourself a little bit more, or reached out and said, I could do a little bit more, or asked another question to learn a little bit more? That's why I say about the purpose and the intent, because when I was running for council, let me tell you, my naive thought that I could change the system. My goodness, it was like this whole community, people helping people. Yeah, it can happen. It can happen with everybody kind of collaborating and working together.
Absolutely. I'll lend you my rose-colored glasses. I know we talked about them earlier and them being a little bent, but at the end of the day, it's true, right? We all need to work together and to be able to make this a safer and more comfortable place for us all to be our very best selves. I think we all need that for sure. Again, it's been a delight to have you both on the program. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Likewise. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our program for today. I hate it when we end so early, and I hope that you don't like it either. If you want to see more of our program, make sure that you tune into Act 3 on Shaw Television as well. Our most recent show is out right now, and we will be filming again coming up very, very soon. So watch out for our next episode on Shaw Spotlight Channel 4. We're super glad that you join us on CHLY 101.7 FM every single Monday at 1 o'clock. Once again, I'm Kathy Holmes, proud to be your host of Act 3. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.